In a recent post on Truth Social, where Donald Trump accused Jack Smith and the DOJ of election interference, he told them, look at the polls. Look at the polls. Look at how great I am doing in the polls, because that proves that you bringing these cases against me now is nothing more than election interference, because you're doing it at the height of my popularity. Well, unfortunately for Donald Trump, Pew Research Center has in fact looked at the polls, because that is what Pew does. And they have now released a new poll tracking your popularity over the last year, right before right before the FBI went down to Mar-a-Lago to get their classified documents back. And your popularity among Republican voters has fallen 9 points in the last 12 months. So last July, again, right before the FBI went to Mar-a-Lago and we learned about the documents case and all of that, before Jack Smith was appointed special prosecutor, basically the only legal problem Trump had at that point was the investigation taking place in Georgia, and it was in its infancy at that point, so nobody really knew what was going to happen. So Donald Trump was flying high in July of 2022, and his approval rating among Republicans was 75%. Now this July, after 12 months of scandals and missteps and horrible media appearances and rallies, Donald Trump's approval rating among Republicans has now fallen to 66%. Now, 2/3 of the party still approving of you is pretty big, but it's a 9-point drop from where you were at this point last year. Not to mention the fact that your unfavorable rating in the Republican Party has creeped up 7 points since this time last year. It was 25% last year unfavorable. Right now, 32% unfavorable. Biden, meanwhile, has also suffered a bit of a drop in his popularity. He's dropped 4 points since this time last year. But a 4-point drop is a hell of a lot better than a 9-point drop. Not to mention, among the public in general, 63% of Americans of all political affiliations have an unfavorable opinion of Trump, an increase from 60% last year. So it's not just that your popularity is falling among Republicans, even though you still get a majority approving of you. It's that the public as a whole, 63% say, I do not approve of this guy. And here's why that matters. Donald Trump is the Republican frontrunner. And barring any weird things, which we still have 2 indictments coming against him, and that could hurt him tremendously because these are bigger and far more serious than the indictments he's already had. But let's say his poll numbers hold steady. All poll numbers that he has, negative, positive, all of it. Let's say they hold steady and he wins that Republican nomination. Republicans are then saddled with a presidential candidate that 35% of the party says, I hate this guy. I don't want to vote for him. 63% of the country says, I hate this guy. I don't want to vote for him. So basically, you've got all the Democrats, you've got nearly all of the independent and no political affiliation voters that say, I hate you and I won't vote for you. And then you've got your own Republican Party where 1/3 of them say, I hate this guy. You can't win an election with those numbers, even against Biden, whose popularity is not great. I mean, 50% of Democrats say we don't want him, we want somebody else, but not the other 2 people running. We want a 4th option. But Democrats know all too well what happens when you put up an unpopular presidential candidate, somebody with an approval rating underwater, because they did it in 2016. And even though Hillary Clinton had a higher favorability rating than Donald Trump did, she was still underwater. And you had people switching parties, voting third party. You had them simply not voting at all. And just, tens of thousands of people doing that, not even hundreds of thousands, but tens of thousands, cost her that election with the Electoral College. So Trump could be in the same situation that Hillary Clinton was in 2016. Most people don't like him. 1/3 of his own party doesn't like him. So he can talk about crushing it in the polls all he wants. but he's ignoring the polls that actually matter, and those polls are telling him very clearly and very loudly, you cannot win a general election. And by the way, having somebody that unpopular at the top of the ticket is absolutely going to hurt Republicans in all down ballot races too. So not only is Trump going to lose if he's their nominee, but him being the nominee for Republicans is probably going to cost the Republican Party the House and the Senate as well. So silver linings all around, I guess, if, and that's a big if, these numbers hold steady for the next year and a half. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share, but again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.